Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advance. This is a game from Tata Steel Masters Edition, and this is round 4, and this is a game played between Anish Giri and Magnus Carlsen. And what a brilliant game it is. And I won't spoil much, so without further ado, let's get on with this game. Anish starts with d4, Magnus plays knight f6, c4, e6, and knight f3. And Magnus goes for b6. Magnus goes for queen's Indian defense. Okay, Anish plays g3 and Magnus goes for bishop a6, eyeing that c4 pawn. And we had a similar position in a game in Tata Steel's Ding versus Gukesh. And Gukesh in this position played b3 and Ding was able to win that game. But Anish had something else prepared for Magnus and Anish plays queen c2. Okay, Magnus reroutes the bishop and Magnus plays bishop b7. Okay, Anish plays bishop g2 and Magnus goes for c5. Anish goes for d5 in this position, which might seem like a pawn sacrifice, and it is, but Anish will get a very nice compensation for the sacrifice pawn. Okay, Magnus accepts the challenge and Magnus plays e captures, c captures and knight captures. And Anish just simply castles in this position, and Magnus goes for bishop e7, Anish goes for rook to d1, eyeing the knight on d5, and Magnus plays the very interesting knight to c6, as you're not in time to capture the knight on d5 because of knight to b4. Winning material. So Anish goes for queen to f5, and now there's actually the threat of rook captures knight on d5. So Magnus moves it and Magnus plays knight to f6, and Anish goes for the very nice central thrust with e4. Okay, Magnus plays d6, and Magnus already had this position in 2009, and surprisingly Magnus was playing with the white pieces. So Magnus knows what he's doing, and Anish goes for e5. And Magnus plays the only move that's there in the position for him, and Magnus plays queen d7, and Anish trades queens. Queen captures on d7, knight captures, and Anish captures the pawn on d6, and Anish plays e captures on d6 and Magnus plays bishop f6. Anish goes for rook e1 and Magnus hides the king and Magnus plays king f8. Anish goes for the very nice developing knight to c3 in this position. Okay, Magnus plays knight b4, threatening knight c2 to win material. And Magnus in 2009 went for bishop g5 in this position. But Anish has something else prepared for Magnus, and I don't know how much of it is home preparation or onboard analysis, but Anish has been playing spectacular chess in Tata Steels, and you'll see why. Anish goes for the very nice knight to e5, and okay, Magnus captures knight into e5. You don't necessarily have to capture, you can also play rook to d8, and after knight captures, rook captures, bishop captures and rook captures back, the game goes on. But okay, Magnus captures knight into e5 and Anish captures the bishop captures on b7 and Magnus plays rook to d8. Okay, Anish defends rook to d1 and Magnus goes for the very nice knight to c4, putting extra pressure on that d6 pawn, and Anish pushes it. Anish plays d7 and Magnus goes for knight to c2 right away. Instead of this knight to c2, what Magnus should have done was Magnus should have gone knight to e5, putting more pressure on that d7 pawn, as if white is persistent on saving that pawn and plays something like bishop c8, then Magnus always has this maneuver of knight to c2 and knight to d4 blocking the rook's defense on the d7 pawn. But okay, Magnus goes for knight to c2 right away and Anish moves the rook. Anish plays rook to b1, and the move that Magnus has to find in this position is knight to e5 again. But Magnus goes for knight to d4 right away, and this is problematic because Anish plays the best move in the position, which is b4. And now Magnus is in trouble because instead of sensing the danger, Magnus goes for rook captures on d7, and that will simply just not suffice. Instead of rook captures on d7, there was this very nice knight to e5 idea, and after something like b captures and b captures, you get this position where Anish has this very nice knight to c4, and after the bishop moves back and Anish plays bishop to a3, you can just eliminate this pass pawn and the game goes on. But instead of all of this, Magnus misses the idea, and now there's actually a winning move for Anish. So pause the video and try to find this move while I give you a couple of seconds. Congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move, and the move is actually bishop to d5, and that's a brilliant move because now the knight has to move, and Magnus goes for knight to d6, and after b captures, Anish plays the very nice bishop to a3. And now you see the problem, because the bishop is occupying this very nice diagonal, and there's no actual way of saving the c5 pawn, because if you go to rook to c7 to try and still save the pawn, you'll get this very nasty rook to b8 check, and after you block with the knight, you'll get the bishop to b7, and now there's no way to save the knight. So Magnus tries the one last thing, and Magnus plays king to e7, sacrificing the c5 pawn to get some counterplay. Okay, Anish captures, bishop captures on c5, and Magnus goes for knight to e6. And in this position, there's actually a win for Anish that starts with knight to e5. And after knight captures bishop, knight captures knight, and after knight to c7, you have this very nice rook to e1 check. And after the king moves back, you have knight to a6, and only more rook has to go back to protect the back ranks. And after bishop captures on f7, you get this position where these bishop is occupying these squares, knight is covering these squares, rook is covering these files, and look at the king on d8 and the rook on h8. Black's not going to survive this game for long. But Anish misses this, and Anish goes for bishop to b4. But now there's actually a way for Magnus to get back in the game. So pause the video and save this game for Magnus while I give you a couple of seconds. Congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move, and the move is actually just to eliminate one of the attackers. And after bishop captures, and after knight to f5, and bishop captures, rook captures, and king captures, you get this position, which is much more likely that Magnus can save in a game. But instead of all of this, Magnus misses all of this, and Magnus goes for a5. And now this is a free pawn, and Anish captures it. And Magnus tries to get the rook in the game with the rook of c8, but now it's a little bit too late, as Anish goes for knight to a4. And even with something like rook to a7 trying to win material, this will not work because of bishop to b4. And Anish had to calculate all of this, because after rook captures, you get this very nasty bishop to d6, and after captures with the check, you're into the mask of the rook, and you get this bishop to b7 check. And now there's nothing else to be done. You can go king to c7, but after rook to c1 check, you lose very severe material loss and you lose the game. So instead, Magnus goes for knight to c4, and Anish goes for rook b c1, pinning that knight, and Magnus plays bishop to e5, centralizing that bishop, but Anish goes for bishop to b4 check, and now the king starts to run away, and king goes to f6, and after knight to c5 and knight captures, rook captures, and rook d to c1, trying to hold on to everything, but Anish delivers the final blow, and Anish plays bishop to a5. And it was also in this position that Magnus Carlsen resigned the game, as there's nothing more to be done in this position. So spectacular victory for Anish Giri, and he must be very satisfied with himself, and the quote says it all. So thank you all for watching. I'll be coming up with another amazing game from Tata Steel, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you all.